All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Helen Dion. I am the Senior Marketing Manager for SWK Technologies. Welcome to our webinar, Shipping Tips and Tricks with StarShip, presented by Matt St. John of V Technologies. So a little housekeeping before we get started. Everyone has been placed on mute just to keep the background noise down. However, you can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar. If you're not familiar with how to submit a question, look for the question section in your GoToWebinar pod on your screen, and we will answer all questions at the end of the presentation. We are recording the presentation, so we will be providing that recording to you tomorrow, along to anyone who registered but was not able to attend. At the end of the presentation, we'll be asking a short one survey question. So if you're able to answer that, we would greatly appreciate it. So with that said, thanks for joining us today. We're here to help you get the most out of your software solutions and help you find an easier way to run your business, which is why we've invited V Technologies and Matt today to present, as they are the industry experts on integrated shipping. So whether you're here for research for a new solution or you're just here to learn, we like to encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar, which we'll answer at the end, because we do have a subject matter expert with us today. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Matt.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And thank you everyone for taking time to join today's webinar. Let me share my screen here with everyone. I really appreciate it. We know your time's valuable. And thank you to SWK for inviting us. So again, today we're going to go over shipping tips and tricks and show you StarShip's integration. So really just to start off, we're going to talk a little bit about V Technologies as a company. And then we'll jump into a live demo. So with StarShip kind of on my screen here, as you see, we do integrate with Sage 100, 300, 500, and as well as Acumatica. For today's demo, I'm going to use Sage 100, but I do have queued up my Acumatica software, and I can basically show you the right back of how StarShip integrates with Acumatica as well. But again, real quick, a little bit about V Technologies. We've actually been developing integrated shipping solutions since 1987, so 34 years now of developing integrated software, shipping software. At VTech, that's all we do. So we only handle integrated shipping solutions. We do integrate with a dozen other ERP systems, over a dozen ERP systems, but we've been working with Sage the longest for 21 years now. And of course, with Sage, we are a Sage Gold development partner. On the Acumatica side, we are, of course, 2021 R1 certified and been working with Acumatica for 6 years. At VTech, we're also located in Connecticut, and things like support, development, Q&A, that's all done in-house. So we're not really outsourcing, like, say, our support team. We have a great group of guys in support, and with support, not only do they understand, of course, the StarShip program, they also are going to understand your ERP system. So I can kind of break them apart by the ERP systems, just like we do with our sales reps. So myself, I have a great background with inside of Sage, as well as Acumatica. And we've had over about 10,000 businesses, I should say, that have used StarShip to improve their day-to-day working workflow and shipment flows. So kind of some of the points we're going to cover today. First off, with StarShip, it is a multi-carrier, multi-mode platform. So as a shipper, from one piece of software, I can process small parcel, international, of course, domestic shipments, LTL type shipments as well. Or even maybe we have an employee that wants to ship something, or we're shipping samples and we're not going to have a sales order, for example, inside our ERP system. We can even ship shipments outside and not be connected to the ERP system. So we're not just contained into our ERP world. But with StarShip, some of the things we're going to focus on is automating small package and even palletized carrier selection. And we'll go into detail during the demonstration on this. But with StarShip, we can basically tell it, hey, I want you to rate shop all my different carriers that we have integrations with, and I want you to select maybe the least expensive carrier or maybe the least amount of delivery days. All right, so you can even take that whole process of maybe having the Shipper have to worry about that. Hey, we always wanted to go out with the least expensive carrier. That can be automated inside StarShip. Now, optimize your packaging. Nowadays, if you're not aware, a dimensional weight is a big deal. So, we have our scale weights where we put a package on the scale and maybe it weighs 16 pounds. But according to the carrier, they also do dimensional weight. So they take those dimensions and they each have their own different calculation. And that is, if that trumps, that's what you're going to be charged. So you can be saying it's 16 pounds, but for the carrier, dimensionally, it might be 19. So we're going to go through that. I'll show you how StarShip handles that, and you'll see live rate shopping as well as that live dimensional calculation based off of the carrier. Now, manage delivery expectations. So with StarShip, there's address validation that can be set up to automatically run. Now, we'll go into that as well. So we can validate ZIP+4. We'll correct the residential commercial flag. So we're going to help save on those address correction fees. We even have our own custom email program that you can design your own custom emails to send out all the shipment information to your customers. And then, of course, with StarShip, we also integrate with the EDI, inventory management, even WMS solutions that are out there in the Sage and Acumatica world. So with EDI, for example, Mapadoc, we can send back all the information, all that required shipping information that is needed to generate ASNs directly into the program. That way, no one has to manually type in, say, tracking information or any of that information that is required. And in the demo, I'll discuss about how we integrate with WMS too, because I think it's easier to, if you see it, then talk about it. And then enhanced functionality. So with StarShip, of course, again, multi-carrier, multi-mode, we fully support blind drop shipments, for example, hazmat type shipments. We have a whole database where your inventory items, if they are considered hazmat or hazardous, that could be automatically set up inside StarShip. Tell it, hey, we need maybe a bill lading that's a hazmat bill lading, or I need special hazmat labels. That can be all done inside of StarShip. GS 128 labels. I know a lot of EDI solutions, they can produce those, but StarShip can also generate those as well. And of course, shipping documents like international documents, so shipper's letter instruction, commercial invoices, certificate of origins. Again, that's things that StarShip can generate, along with bill lading forms and packing lists, of course, shipping labels as well. With StarShip, we do integrate with over 24 parcel and LTL carriers. So here's just a snapshot of some of those carriers. As you see, as I mentioned, LTL, small parcel, even Canadian type carriers like Canapar, Purolator, Canada Post. But with StarShip's integrations to these carriers, for example, it is a live electronic call. So we're going to ping the carriers, return your live contract rates. Even small parcel, we can return published list rates as well. Going to return things like pro numbers and tracking numbers. A lot of the LTL carriers even support electronic pickup, where we can tell them, hey, come on this date between these hours, and we have a shipment ready. So you don't have to manually call them or go on their website to schedule the pickup. And then e-commerce integration. So as you see, StarShip does integrate with e-commerce sites like Magento, Shopify, eBay, a bunch of them on this. And with that integration, it can actually use it two different ways. We do have a direct, so for example, I'll just use Shopify as an example, where from inside StarShip, we can actually pull the orders directly from Shopify and bring them in StarShip, do whatever we need to do, quick ship and process, and then on right back, StarShip's just going to update the order on Shopify. So mark it complete, or maybe it's back ordered, put in tracking information. Now, most of our clients, because they're using an ERP system like Sage 100 or Acumatica, most of them, we probably want to get those orders first inside the ERP system. So we can also use these integrations as what we call an extension, where we bring in the order in from the ERP system into StarShip. We ship and process it. StarShip's going to write back the shipping information back into the ERP system, but it would also update the order again, for example, on Shopify. And then I also know there are other third-party products out there that can connect your e-commerce sites to your ERP systems. And if you're using any of those, I know Acumatica has the built-in ones. So if you're using those, just know our integrations wouldn't be required, because we're really either, if it's Acumatica or Sage 100, for example, we're dropping this, say, tracking information directly into the correct tables in the ERP system. So that information can be picked up by those other third-party solutions, or again, the one that Acumatica has built in. So ours wouldn't be required. We're just putting that information in the correct fields. They're going to grab it and then upload it to your e-commerce sites. All right, so with that being said, let me jump out of here and we'll go on to my demo machine. And actually, because we have an hour today, I'm actually going to throw in a bonus tip. And we'll talk about first rate shopping from sales order entry. So this is a feature that is included with StarShip. It is available, as you see, with Sage 100 and Acumatica. So the other nice thing with this is it does not require any additional user seats or licenses. But for example, with Sage 100, if I'm a customer service rep or a sales rep, I can go into sales order entry. This works for standard orders or even a quote. And of course, I can put in, here I put UPS ground as my ship via. I put in my customer's address. Oh, it's residential. Here's the zip code. I can put in my line items, and then I'm going to be able to click this rate quote button. And what's going to happen here? Try this one more. There we go. Just have to log back in. With this login, it can be a universal, or you can have individual logins. But just know with StarShip, with your users, we can set up security features. So for example, my user rate, they can't get inside a StarShip to actually ship product. From here, this screen that they're brought to, this mirrors the actual main StarShip screen that shippers would use. But again, I can't actually ship anything from here. But with StarShip, it's going to scrape all that data, in this case from the sales order in Sage 100, automatically populate it. And here with the recipient, talking about that address validation, I'm just going to manually validate this one. But if we wanted to, now a customer service rep can validate the ship too. As you see, it's actually automatically validated it for me. What I'm going to do is just drill down into it so you can see. But here it's changed the postal code to 06410, added the +4, and then of course deselected the residential because this is a commercial address. So automatically it's taking care of that for me. Even from here as a customer service rep, sales rep, I can even see, hey, these are the 3 items on the order. I can add boxes if I wanted to, put items in boxes. So I can get a good detail quote, basically build my shipment, do all that. And then down below is that live rate shopping. So this is where I'm going to see those live contract charges with my carriers. Again, even published list charges. I can see business days, ETAs. But in this case, maybe I want to go, let's go with FedEx. So I changed it to FedEx. Now I'm going to simply click apply. And as you're going to see back on the sales order, automatically reverse translated the ship via. And then of course on the address, automatically updated that zip code, or even if the address changed, deselected the residential flag that I had triggered. And then of course on totals, if we wanted to, we could have it right back the freight amount. Okay, it's up to you. So again, just a little bonus tip. So I'm just going to accept this, and we'll jump right into StarShip now and show you how we would process a shipment. Oops, I might get over to my StarShip machine. Okay, so here's StarShip. So this is the program the shipper is going to work in with even Acumatica interface or the Sage 100. One of the nice things is I don't have to be inside my ERP system. So most of our clients that are running, for example, with Sage 100 out in the warehouse on those shipping machines, they just have StarShip installed. They're not inside of Sage. It's not even installed on that shipping machine. Now, with that being said, this is still a live connection, even though I'm not inside of Sage or have it open. For example, up top, I'm going to pull by sales orders, but we can pull by customers or invoices. If this was Acumatica, we can go by sales order shipments or customers. And with the Acumatica integration, if we pull by a sales order number, on write back, StarShip would automatically create that shipment record inside of Acumatica with all of the shipment detail written back into it. Okay. So here, I'm just going to pull by sales order number. StarShip does fully support multiple companies, warehouses, locations, branches with Acumatica. So this would be a drop down if I wanted to, on the fly, switch my companies if needed. And then here's the source field. So this is where I can manually type, in this case, a sales order number. If it happens to be barcoded, StarShip also supports plug and play wedge type scanners. So I can even scan in that sales order number in this case and have StarShip automatically load it. Now down below, I can, if I wanted to, automatically look or manually look up my different sales orders. Here I have a filter. I'm just showing anything in the 200 range, but with Sage, we can filter by really any of these Sage 100 fields. If I wanted to narrow that search results, I can even get into just, maybe we want to ship by, grab our expired date, grab the first ones that are going to expire. We can sort by that, or again, even by the sales order number, how I had it. Also with Sage 100, we do fully support the ability to consolidate multiple orders that are going to the same ship to. So for example, here I click the group related. Now StarShip's showing me, hey, you have 6 orders that are going to this warehouse in Milwaukee. As a shipper, I can then say, yep, I want to ship them all, or maybe I want to do half of them. Click create shipment. What StarShip's going to do is consolidate those orders into one shipment. Okay, and again, that's either based off of the same ship via, or sorry, the same ship to, or even by the same PO number. And so that way I'm not sending out all these different orders to the same ship to. I can consolidate that, save some time, save some money. Now for the sake of them, I'll just manually grab an order, and we'll grab an international shipment. But again, StarShip can do LTL, domestic, international, so on and so forth. Doesn't need to be tied to the ERP system. So StarShip just automatically loaded all, in this case, my sales order header and line item information. So here's my source information. So that's the ERP, the company. Here's my sender information, which normally would be your normal company info. But we also do support blind drop shipments. So here I can select Tractor Supply Company for an example, and show everything like it's coming from Tractor Supply Company. Now, with StarShip's integration to Acumatica to Sage, we are just simply data mapping the fields. So we can take really any of the StarShip fields and point them, in this case with Sage 100, to standard Sage 100 fields, even user-defined fields with Acumatica, same thing, standard Acumatica fields, custom fields, or attribute fields. But point being is, if I had this set up, I wouldn't, and I needed to show like it was coming from Tractor Supply Company, I could data map in maybe a user-defined field on the sales order, and StarShip would automatically populate this. So I wouldn't have to go in as a shipper and manually select it. Of course, we're here to help streamline that shipping process. So the less things as a shipper I have to type, touch, move, maneuver, anything, of course, the better. Now, recipient, that's really my recipient information. So just mapping in all the ship to info from, in this case, Sage. Transportation, really just looking at your ship via codes. Those are telling StarShip carrier, service, account information. Billing type, we can even automate third-party collect type shipments or bill recipient, have all this information automatically populate so the shipper doesn't have to do that. We'll even validate that third-party account number as well. So that way, you're not going to get charged for the shipment if we accidentally type in or have an incorrect third-party account number. Okay, so again, just another way we can help save some money. International shipments, we do fully support EEI if anyone has those requirements with StarShip. We can connect to the government website, pass the information, even return the ITN number. So if anyone has those type of requirements, that's something we also fully support. And then as you see, who pays what, duties, taxes, brokers, importers, so on and so forth. Shipment details, really just all our shipment options. Again, these can be triggered from Sage or Acumatica. We can manually select them. We can even default them. So for example, here, I'm defaulting the carrier email, always selecting it, bringing in an email address, and just telling StarShip, use the carrier email if there's a delay or an exception. Line item detail, This is just with StarShip, we do actually have a database for your inventory items. And the reason we do this because maybe in this case inside of Sage, you don't have a field for freight class and MFC codes or even all that required international data. So StarShip can store all that. And now in this scenario, I don't have to stop and put in any of the required international data. It's all populated for me. Now, maybe I was missing a Schedule B code. StarShip would prompt me. I can even come in here. Maybe I even want to apply a filter. I can find my correct Schedule B code, select it. And once I process the shipment, StarShip is automatically going to save that data. So the next time I don't have to go through those steps. Now, in a live environment, usually shippers, the first spot they go to is this packaging, because this is where we can get into the item box detail. We can add packages. If it's an LTL type shipment, we can even do item box pallet detail. Now, if to go back to that integration with the WMS system, out of the box plug and play integration. And if you're using a WMS, just know however you define the shipping details on a handheld device or whatever you're using with the WMS, that's how it's going to flow into StarShip. So we can even now look at user defined fields on the package level inside, for example, with Sage. So you can even scan the package name or maybe the package dimensions. Of course, any items you put in that package, that's how it's going to flow into StarShip. So that's one of the nice things about using a WMS. You know, as a shipper, I really don't even have to build the detail inside of StarShip. Now, my system, as you see, there is an item already packaged, and that's simply, I'm just using one of StarShip's packaging scenarios. We do support them. Now, caveat to StarShip's packaging scenarios, unfortunately, we can only do one item to one type of box or multiple versions of that box. Unfortunately, we can't say, hey, StarShip, a pillow and a blanket fit in a blanket box. So it's designed more for case packs because you can also do quantity breaks to tell StarShip, you know, only 6 blankets fit in a blanket box. So if you do have any items that always ship in the same type of package, just know there could be packaging scenarios. StarShip would automatically package those. Now, from here, these 2 items down below, no packaging scenario, so I'm just bringing them into this default package. But if I need to add an additional box, I can click this icon. We even have these icons on each of the packages levels, which is a repeat icon. So I can tell StarShip, you know, repeat this package X amount of times, copy the original weight, click OK, and it's simply going to add all the additional boxes. Okay. So I'm just going to delete this so we don't have a bunch of labels printing. Now, item box detail with StarShip, if I wanted to, I can simply drag and drop items. So again, hey, I know the pillow can also fit in the blanket box, simply going to drag it in there. These dinner plates, you know, maybe we're going to put those in a large box. So I'm just going to grab the large box from this drop down. This is just a database where you can set up your own boxes, bags, bales, pallets, you know, crates, envelopes, whatever it may be. So as a shipper, I can actually select those if I wanted to inside of StarShip. Now, our quantities, this is what we've ordered on the sales order, so just automatically bringing those in. We have a security feature that if you'd like, shippers can actually back order items. So maybe inventory is off and we only have 5 out of 6 blankets. We can back order these items, and on write back, StarShip is going to send this back into Sage. Hey, only ship 5 out of 6. Same thing with Acumatica. You know, anything, the quantities we change, that's how it goes back into the ERP system. Right. Now, next door, we have actual weight. So if you have an integrated scale, we could set it up where StarShip automatically brings in the weight from the scale. Of course, we can manually type in weights, or in my system, I'm just using the weights. I have them set up inside of Sage, so automatically populating the weights for my shipper. Now, next door is the bill weight. So there's that dimensional calculation. So here it's showing me, hey, this is 19 pounds, and this applied total is rate shopping at the correct dimensional weight right now. Okay. Also, when we ship and process, same thing. It's going to go to the carrier at the correct dimensional weight. So later on, you're not going to get that bill. Hey, you sent that one box out at 6 pounds. Dimensionally, it was 19. Right. So always going to populate that dimensional weight for you. Now, in this case, this is another thing when we talk about optimizing our packages. You know, here as a shipper, wow, you know, if I send this out, it's going to be billed at 19 pounds and it's going to be $19. Now, maybe I can put that in a small box and maybe that will save us some money. Let's see. Oh, yeah, okay. Brings me down to $17. Now, maybe I want to make my own custom box. Oops. And I'll just go here. I'll type in custom. And let's see, maybe if I cut it down to 10 by 10, or let's do 10 by 6 by 6. That we can fit the plates in that size box. And let's see what it's still going to be $17. So probably not worth my time to actually cut down a box. Let's just keep it in the small box that we originally selected. Okay. So again, just kind of showing you how you can optimize your package selection by comparing actual weights to dimensional weights. Now, after we do packaging, usually most clients or shippers, they scroll down here, and this is where we're going to see that live rate shopping. So again, any of the carriers that we have the integrations with that you're using, going to ping them, return your live contract rates. That's this column here. Here's our published list rates. If this was an LTL type shipment, published list rates would be 0. They just simply don't offer published list rates. And then applied charge is simply plus or minus any freight rules. So with StarShip, if you're doing things like free shipping over X amount of dollars, or for example, I'm just going to scroll up to this total charge breakdown and drill in, and I do have a couple rules set up. This one is actually just looking at a user-defined field inside of Sage. This actually lives on customer maintenance. It's a simple checkbox. It's selected. StarShip knows, oh, this customer receives a 10% discount. Also this one, I'm going on a line item detail. Again, we're shipping plates, they're fragile. We usually add additional packaging material. So let's add a flat rate of $3 to help cover for that additional packaging material. Okay, so freight rules can be flat rates, min maxes, calculations, percentages, and as you see, it could be based off of Sage or even Acumatica fields, of course, custom user-defined fields, or even just using StarShip fields. Now, before we discuss rate shopping and having StarShip automatically do that, so we could have rules set up. StarShip automatically selects the least expensive carrier service, least amount of delivery days. Here, I actually have a rate shop scenario where I'm telling StarShip, this is a small parcel shipment. Only show me my small parcel carriers and services because I don't want to see my LTL ones that I have set up inside the system. We can also do switch rules. Maybe, hey, anytime it's customer ABC, it's always got to go FedEx, it's got to go ground, it's got to be on this account. Where those could be set up, StarShip would automatically make those changes. I even have some clients that they use user-defined fields to trigger the carrier selection. For example, one, they do chocolate, and inside of the sales order entry, they have a simple checkbox, kind of like that one I showed you with my freight rule. And the customer service rep, they'll select that anytime the weather's above 70 degrees. StarShip looks at that field. If it's selected, automatically changes it to UPS second day. So less chance that the chocolate's going to melt. Okay. So kind of a brief overview of the different fields inside of StarShip. But once I'm ready to actually process a shipment, I can simply click this ship and process button, or under the shipment dropdown, as you see, we have shortcut keys. We can stage shipments. Maybe we just want to save this one. Maybe we also want to include a return label in our original shipment. We can do that as well. Here, I'm just going to click ship and process. And what StarShip will do in a live environment, of course, right now, it would just be printing out any of the documents that I have enabled. For my demo, I PDF everything, so it does take a moment to pop all the different PDFs. Also, I don't have a thermal printer hooked up, so this document is what we call our smart label. As you can see, it's simply just going to generate a shipping label and packing list together. But of course, just an option. If you have thermal printers, StarShip can send your different labels to those thermal printers. So we can tell it, hey, UPS goes to this thermal printer, FedEx ones go to a different one. The packing list options there, that could also go to a thermal printer. Of course, we can send it to a laser printer, or maybe you want to save it as a PDF to a network share folder. We can do that as well. So there's box 1 of 2, box 2 of 2. Now documents can be customized. So with this packing list, I actually have a separate template set up. You can create unlimited templates. And then with the templates, you can even assign printing rules. So this one is a special one that, because I'm doing a blind drop shipment for Tractor Supply Company, StarShip knows I need to generate this special one that has their logo and their information. So same thing, a lot of our clients ship for Home Depot, and they have a special form or packing list that gets created inside of StarShip. And then again, that rule is applied. StarShip only prints that special packing list when the order is for Home Depot, for example. All right. Also, because this was international, here are my international documents, shipper's letter of instruction. As you see, all my information automatically being filled out for me. Also, we have our certificate of origin, same thing. All the information is being populated for me. And then our commercial invoice. And on this one, I actually customized it, which again, you can do to any of the documents. So it's signed and dated. So now as a shipper, I don't have to stop, fill out anything. I just grab this off the printer and it's ready to go. Right. Same thing, StarShip, as I mentioned, can do bill lating forms, pallet labels, and those can be customized as well. So just minimize and close all these PDFs here. Now, once I click ship and process again, StarShip's just going to generate my shipping documents, and then it's automatically going to take me back to the main StarShip screen where basically rinse, repeat. I can grab my next order and go through that process again. Okay. Now, I'll jump back onto my Sage machine so I can show you the write back with Sage. So here I'm going to go into SO invoice data entry. So now, as soon as my shipper clicks ship and process, StarShip is automatically going to create the invoice for the front office. Right? So here's the invoice for sales order 222, the one we just shipped. On the header tab, I can go to tracking now. There's my tracking information, carrier weights, comment, that's up to you. Now, this information is dropped directly inside the correct Sage tables, so I can even use their little tracking hyperlink here. Or maybe later on, afterwards, our customer called and said, hey, I didn't get package 1. I can even drill back in and see what we put in each of the boxes, as long as we're doing that inside of StarShip or through a WMS system. Okay, so that's our tracking information. Totals, we're going to write back freight amount. That would be plus or minus any freight rules. We can also do write back scenarios where, for example, oh, maybe the order came from a website. We already charged them freight. In that scenario, we can tell StarShip, hey, do not write back or even overwrite the freight amount because that's what the customer's been charged. Now, here in my system underneath, I actually do have 2 user-defined fields. As you see, this one, freight cost from StarShip. And what I'm doing is I'm actually writing back additional shipping information into this user-defined field. I'm sending back my live contract rate. So now, before someone in the front office or whoever's updating invoices, that still needs to be done. StarShip just creates them. We don't generate them or anything like that. They can go in and check and now compare, hey, you know what, why did we short ourselves here? We're charging them $62 and we're going to be charged almost $66. What happened? Oh, we gave them a discount. And no, you know what, I know this customer owes us money, so it should be $75. Okay. So another nice feature with StarShip and that ability to take additional information and send it back into a user-defined field with Sage or even with Acumatica, we can send it back into like attribute fields or custom fields. Okay. So that is the write back. What I'll do, let me just quickly jump back to my Sage machine here, or I'm sorry, my StarShip machine. And I did, like I said, I do have Acumatica open. Let me just see if I have to log back in here. And I'll just quickly show you the write back. Again, look and feel of StarShip is going to be the same with the Acumatica integration. And then on the write back, as you see, we're going to take the order and mark it confirmed. And I'll just drill down into this one and I can quickly show you that write back in the details. So again, status is now confirmed. On the shipping, there's my freight cost and freight price. I'll write back both the different values into those 2 fields if you'd like. Packaging tab, there's my box ID. So in this scenario, I actually built the shipment just like I showed you with Sage inside of StarShip. Again, if you're using the WMS with Acumatica, that's how it would flow in. So this would already be pre-populated, but in this case, I pulled by the shipment record. I didn't define any of the shipment details inside of Acumatica, so I did all that inside of StarShip. And on the write back, StarShip's automatically reverse translated those box IDs. As you see down below, what I put in each of those boxes, again, the quantities that I'm shipping, and same thing for the small box. Here's my tracking information. Custom reference 1 and 2, this is up to you if you want to send back additional information. Here, I think I'm doing the item weights that I have set up. And then, of course, this is the ETA from the carrier. And then on the notes, if you'd like, we can generate a note. So here, I'm actually doing dimensional weight. I was working with a client. They wanted to see if there was a difference. and then the tracking information. But again, this is up to you what you want to send back into there if you want us to create a note. All right. Now, also with StarShip, I discussed about the rate quoting from sales order entry with inside of Sage or Acumatica. We also include our dashboard program. So again, this is included, does not require any additional user seats or licenses. So again, you want anyone in the front office to access this, they can. I am accessing this through the main StarShip screen. We do have it as a standalone, so they don't have to get into StarShip. But from dashboard, basic reporting tool, here I have this heat map set up, and so you can see your hotspots. Also, for example, with this history and status tab, I have these bunch of widgets. Now, of course, a lot of this information is going to be going back into the ERP system. But again, if we wanted to use this, we can come in here. Maybe I want to drill down and see the status of the shipment, see the details, or maybe a customer called and, hey, I lost my packing list, or I didn't get a certain form. Those can be reprinted right from this screen as well. So customer service reps, sales reps can do that. Also in here, we do offer a bunch of canned crystal reports. So address correction, of course, all our daily history of the shipments, late delivery report that does actually compare the guarantee ship date to the actual delivery date. And that way let you know of any shipment that wasn't delivered in time. So you can reach out to the carrier, try to get a refund. This apply burst contract, I kind of showed you how you can do this with the custom write back and user defined fields with Sage. But this report would actually show you, here are your shipments. Here's what you charge the customer. The middle column is going to be your contract rate, so what the carrier is going to charge you. And then the third column would be the plus or minus the calculation of the of those two values. All right, so quick report you can run, make sure you're not losing money on your shipments. Okay. And then also from here is our e-notify program. So as you saw in my system, I had it set up where I only wanted to use the carrier email if there was a delay or an exception. And the reason I did that is because I'm using StarShip's e-notify program, which is going to allow you to create your own custom email templates. Right? So here you can put your company information on there. That way it's not branded the carrier. Easily can pull in Sage or Acumatica fields. So here I have the PO number, the sales order number, maybe let them know, hey, it's coming UPS, where it's going to. Maybe you want to show them, hey, you should expect 2 packages by this ETA, and this is coming from the carrier, so that's accurate. Again, if we're doing that item box detail, you can even show them what was in each package, quantity ordered versus quantity shipped. Tracking information would be hyperlinked, take them right back to the carrier's website. And on this one, I actually have a promotional code, 20% off your next order. You can hyperlink promo codes, get them back to your website right away. And then with these email templates, you can actually even do emailing rules. So for example, maybe I only want this special template to go to certain customers. I can create that rule, and then StarShip would only send it to those customers. Also with the emails, a question I get asked a lot is, when do they get sent? And answer is, it's up to you. You can send them as soon as the shipper clicks ship and process. I usually don't recommend that because what's going to happen is the customer is going to track it, they receive this, and then they're going to call you and say, hey, I don't see that. And that's only because this isn't in the UPS system yet, so there's really no data to provide the customer. So you could also delay these by any certain number of hours and or minutes. If you wanted to, which most of our customers do, they actually just set a time, hey, at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock at night, automatically send out all the emails. Or from here, I can even go back to the pending and manually forward or send these emails. Also, maybe if we have a bad email in our ERP system, we can see what's failed and, of course, what's sent. Let's see, we still have a couple more minutes here. So, what I'll do is I'll quickly even just show you an LTL type shipment. So if anyone is doing LTL, you can see how that works. But again, with StarShip, multi-carrier, multi-mode, it's really going to be the same look, same feel. Again, here's all my shipment information for this LTL shipment. Difference now is, of course, I have an LTL carrier selected. Again, here's that pinging the carrier, letting them know we have a pickup, come get it between these hours. And then down below in the packaging, our real difference now is we get into item, box, pallet detail. So here, I'll just quickly add an additional box. We'll just drag all these items into that box. If you wanted to, you can even do custom pallets. Again, custom boxes, just say that's a blanket. Here's our quantities, weights, dimensions. And then here, my freight class is grayed out, and that's only because in my system, I'm telling StarShip to automatically select the freight class for me. That's just an option. We can, of course, still manually, here, I'll just add an additional pallet if I wanted to have my shipper select it. But here with these ones, I actually have a rule that just tells StarShip, you grab the freight class for me. And if there are mixed items with different freight classes, always grab the highest. We can, of course, also do always grab the lowest, or as I mentioned, you can just have your shipper manually change or select that freight class. Right? And then down below, it is going to just run with the carriers that we have integrations with, just like a small parcel. You're going to be able to see those different live contract rates. And of course, live demo, my system's going to slow down on me. Let me just make sure I have everything selected correctly. I do. Okay. There we go. So here, as you see, all my different carriers. Now I'm using actually a 3PL, Worldwide Express, that we integrate with. But in this case, with Worldwide Express, they also support UPS. So this is why we break down the interface and the account, because maybe I want to see what Worldwide Express is going to charge me compared to my negotiated rate that I have directly with UPS. So I can actually compare those two. But again, same thing, all this information. And as I mentioned, list charges are 0 for LTL carriers. But all that information is automatically come in for me. I'm just going to simply click ship and process. And here in my system, I'm going to close these. StarShip will generate a bill of lading form as well as a pallet label. Those are the documents I have enabled. So here's StarShip's straight bill of lading form. We also support a VIC. And just like all the other documents, everything's automatically going to populate. And then this one I have customized. So now I just take this off the printer, hand it to the driver, so he or she can just sign it. I don't have to worry about doing anything else. And then here's a barcoded pallet label if I need one of those. But again, same integration, same workflow. And then back inside of Sage, we'll go to our next, oops, say yes there. And go back to the header. So there's our new invoice for sales order 227. There's my pro numbers, again, all that information. And then, of course, my freight amount and freight cost. And last but not least, with StarShip, we do actually have an on-prem version and a full-blown cloud version. So really up to you which you want to use. The on-prem does support being hosted. So if you have anything hosted with using SWK, just know we do fully support StarShip being hosted, or even just the ERP system hosted. Cloud version, of course, we're going to host that, maintain it for you. This is the actual on-prem, but the cloud version looks the same. This is basically our web UI for the on-prem. But cloud is the same look, same functionality as the on-prem version. It really differences between the two. Of course, with cloud, it is SaaS-based, so you can pay month to month or prepay for the year. And then with cloud, you do gain access to all the carriers that we integrate with, depending on if you pick a small parcel or a small parcel LTL plan. And then on-prem is kind of a la carte. You would purchase, StarShip, each individual carrier's user seat, so on and so forth. So it is a greater upfront expense, but it is that one-time upfront fee. And then with on-prem, there is annual maintenance. And then cloud, again, there's just different tiers based on your shipping volume. So whatever tier you fit in, and you can pay month to month or prepay for a year. Okay. So that's my song and dance, so to say. I appreciate everyone, again, taking time to join our demo. More than happy if there's any questions, or, if you'd like to do a deeper dive one-on-one demo discovery call, please feel free to reach out to your SWK rep and we can get that scheduled.
Thanks so much, Matt. So let's see if we have any
You're
questions
welcome.
coming in.
Sure.
You were very thorough. So We'll see here. Okay, we do have one question. How long is the implementation process?
Oh, great question.
How quickly can you get up and running?
Sure. Yeah, great question. I should have mentioned that. So currently at this point, with the on-premise version, our install or implementation team is booked about 6 to 8 weeks in advance. So it would take, longest about 2 months. But with our process, what we're going to do, and of course we work with your SWK rep through this whole process, is if you decide to move forward with StarShip, what we're going to do is send out a pre-install document. Really, and this again is depending on, or doesn't matter if you're doing cloud or on-prem. That document goes through all your system, what you're running for servers and workstations, bunch of questions on that. Once we get that back, we are going to schedule a pre-install call with our install team. They're going to go over that questionnaire with you. Really, we're going to set it up so, when we go to do the install, we don't run into any issues. We're going to have all our ducks in a row, so to say. But in the meantime, we'd already have your installation appointment or appointment scheduled. Also training appointments scheduled as well. And then of course, the day of the install, usually we like to, so we're not, it depends on, what we're integrating, how many carrier modules, for the on-prem. But it can take, 8 to, if we're doing EDI with trading partners, depending on the trading partners, it could take, 15, 16 hours. But normal, it's about 8 to 10 hours for us to do the install. With the on-prem, you can still work in your ERP system. With the on-prem, there is a StarShip server manager that needs to be installed. Usually that gets installed on a server. Of course, it could be the same server as your ERP. But when that gets installed, it does require a reboot of that server machine. So really, that would be the only time if we're installing it, say, on a Sage server, that everyone needs to get a Sage. But after we do the install, of course, then we're going to go through training and training time. Usually recommend 2 to 4 hours, again, depending on how many shippers we're using. But pretty straightforward training. I usually recommend 2 hours. Clients usually end up using 1. But just know training time never expires. So you can always come back later and, hey, now we've got used to the system. Let's talk about more advanced features, or even I tell shippers, keep track of things that inside StarShip that you're manually doing. Maybe when we went through the whole pre-install process, you forgot, oh, for this certain customer, I always have to type in this comment that has to go on the shipping label. Let us know, because 9 times out of 10, that is something that can be automated. Again, that's what we're here to do. Now with the cloud, that team is booked about 4 weeks in advance, 3 to 4 weeks. So, say about a month. And of course, we're going to get all that prepped on our end. But same thing, pre-install documents, we'll go through all that with you and then do the training as well.
Great. So that was it for the questions. Please remember to fill out our short survey as you're leaving, everyone. So thanks again for joining us. And Matt, thank you so much for your expertise here.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, everyone, and appreciate it. Like I said, reach out to your rep if you have any other questions or would like to schedule a one-on-one call.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.